So, this'll be our base, won't it?
I guess so. Yes.
Nihalf's hammer. How about a tad more enthusiasm? We're in the ancient city of the Shapers. If anything, we should feel honored.
Well, let's just hope the city's defenses work better for us than they did for them.
What do we need?
So, this is it, isn't it? Our base of operations?
So it seems.
An ancient Shaper city on a quest to find a cure for the bloodburn. And we're working for the purity of light. Sounds crazy if you say it like that. Just some weeks ago, I thought I'd be in Greyfell now, trying to make a fresh start as an innkeep.
Innkeep? You?
Hey, don't laugh. What's wrong with some honest work after years of defiling on the road? Getting up early in the morning, setting the tables, serving mulled wine and stew to tired, weary souls. Just a simple, honest life.
So, you'd leave it all behind? The adventuring?
You know. People always act as if these decisions are final. The only way to find out how much I'd like that kind of life is by taking a chance, isn't it? And if one day I wake up and find myself in need of a change, I can still pack up my things and hit the road again. Upsides of elven blood. There's plenty of time.
Innkeeping is fun, until you find yourself on your knees at dawn, clearing up the puddles of vomit and beer these tired, weary souls left behind when they were done carousing.
Quite the cynic, aren't you?
Nobody's forcing you to stay here. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do. Anyway, talk later, shall we? I'm sure you've got battles to prepare.
Made yourself comfortable?
Comfortable? Believe me, being comfortable is the last thing on my mind right now. Just look at this place. A Shaper city. Don't you feel it too? This sense of divinity?
I do. It's beautiful.
Indeed it is. Tahar, I'm not sure if you understand how much this means to me. The forgotten city of Mulandir, the heritage of the Shapers. Since my childhood days, I've dreamed of this. I suppose what I'm trying to say is, thank you. You and the Harbinger have made this dream come true.
Well, all we did was save you from the orcs. You were the one who found the entrance.
You make it sound as if saving me from those greenskins was an easy feat. It wasn't. Anything else I can help you with? If not, I'd like to take another look at that rune Lacane gave us. It's at least as amazing as this place. Tahar, may I help you with something?
What are your thoughts on the Harbinger, Rondar Lacane?
Well, he's my employer. Without him, I wouldn't be on this mission. Or, what do you mean?
I was trying to say, how do you feel about what he stands for? The purity of light, Aenir's return.
Oh, that. I'm not certain I have an opinion on these matters.
Don't you care who you're working for?
Truth be told, not that much. Making a living as an archaeologist is hard enough as it is. I can't afford to be picky. And in all honesty, aren't Lacane and his fellows just more of the same? There have always been cults who weren't happy with the Guardians and believed they had found the true and only God. There was even that one who believed in a sort of schizophrenic God, who was both the trinity of three different beings and the singular omnipotent God at the same time. Now, it sounds funny when you think about it, but those lads were dead serious.
Does the Harbinger know you feel that way?
No, I guess not, but he doesn't need to know about that, does he?
So, you don't believe in Aenir's return?
No, I don't.
But there's truth to what the Purity claims. The Guardians have been unusually silent.
Yeah, because maybe they finally realized how silly and ungrateful most of their creations are and decided not to bother anymore. What I'm trying to say is, there could be all kinds of reasons why they've withdrawn. And I doubt a bonkers robe-wearing lad such as Lacane knows the answer.
So you think the purity is harmless?
Of course they are. And like any other fanatic, he and his fellows will go down once people realize his god doesn't have all the answers.
Maybe you're right.
I certainly hope so.
There's something I've been wondering about. How did your cooperation with the Harbinger begin?
Well, that was simple. I was in Everlight at the time, on request of a nobleman. He'd hired me to do some work on an artifact collection of his. One night, a courier contacted me and gave me a letter. The message outlined the mission and the pay, even though the latter was almost irrelevant to me once I realized what it was that Lacane wanted me to find.
Mulandir.
Yeah, you know the rest of the story.
How does one make a living as an archaeologist?
Good question. One I usually prefer not to think or talk about. To be honest, it's a tough life. For some obscure reason, only very few scholars take interest in the Shaper or the Hibernian culture, even though there is so much to be found. It's a shame.
Like what? What is there to be found?
What, you mean apart from monumental steel constructs, ghost warriors, and a city full of ancient secrets to be discovered? A lot. But that's another topic.
How do you explain that lack of interest?
Well, what do you think? Ignorance. No matter if it's orcs, elves, dwarves, or humans. We're all terribly bad at learning from the past. Blasted, there's so much to be found, so much to be explored. Not just riches, but the technology, wisdom, and ancient secrets. But no, for some reason, the people with the coin just don't care. The only ones who even try to access this treasure are incompetent amateur treasure hunters, who usually get their heads chopped off by the first defense mechanism they walk into.
True. It's a pity.
Well, I suppose that answers your question. The life of an archaeologist is hard, and there have been times where I questioned if... well, if all the sacrifices I've made were worth it. Yet, here I am now.
I've been meaning to ask you, how does a dwarf end up so far from the Windwall Mountains?
Let's not talk about this now, shall we? Maybe later.
All right, sure. Sorry.
No sweat, Tahar. It's fine.
Found out anything new about the rune?
Well, so far all I can say is that what Lacane has given you is indeed a Shaper artifact, as we suspected. Now, I would write all this purity talk of the rune being a gift of Aenir off as religious nonsense if it weren't for the fact that the rune's energy actually interacts with the Godstones, shrines of Aenir.
Which means that the Shapers and Aenir are somehow connected.
Somehow, yes. And I'll find out how.
I found some materials. Could you use these to upgrade your armor?
Yeah, wait. What's that? Nihal's hammer. This is amazing. No, more than that. This is phenomenal.
I don't follow. What's so special about this thing?
This thing, as you call it, is part of an artifact. One that the scholars have been writing about for centuries. It might be possible to reconstruct them, and that, I can't even begin to imagine what that would entail.
Goodbye. Got it. Understood.
So, this is it? Your fabled fortress?
You don't sound...
It'll do. All I need is a good forge. My ingenious mind will do the rest. Though these orcish smiths you've employed so far certainly don't deserve their title.
What do you mean?
Because they are amateurs, and that's putting it lightly. Just give me some coin for material and send them my way. Then I can teach them what a true orcish axe or armor should look like.
I'll take a look.
Yes? Looking for some orcish craftsmanship?
Zal Raka.
Gore, how are you and the Fire Wielders settling in?
All right, I guess. Nonetheless, Tahar, I have to say it. I don't like this place. Not at all.
Why not?
I guess it's the people who once lived here. The Shapers. They were corrupted. And I can feel that corruption even now.
Corrupted?
Yeah. Their customs, their culture. They were completely detached from the order of nature.
How so?
Do you even need to ask? Just look around. Ghost warriors, strange machines, strange buildings. Especially this place, this Nexus. They thought they were above everything, even the gods. And they meddled with things they didn't understand. It's disgusting.
Well, they're dead now.
Maybe. But I can still feel their presence.
In any case, with our new allies, we should be able to go look for the stones.
If you
Yeah, do you need something? I'm a tad busy.
What exactly is it that fascinates you about the Shapers?
Oh, Tahar, that's quite a topic. I don't mind sharing, but are you sure you want to go there?
I am.
All right. Well, where do I start? You see, the Shapers have always fascinated me. They're all over Io. These remnants of a once so glorious civilization. Yet for some reason, so many people are almost oblivious to it. On the one hand, of course, that's very sad. On the other hand, it also makes it a lot more exciting. It's like I'm a treasure hunter, only that everyone else fails to see the treasures around us. Tell me, Tahar, when seeing all of this, don't you sometimes feel like you're exploring a childhood dream? The kind of world the poets and the bards always spoke of?
Sometimes, yes. It's dark, but also fascinating.
Absolutely. But this childish fascination was only the spark. The more I studied the Shapers, the more enthralled I became with their culture. Did you know that at the pinnacle of their existence, they ruled over all of Io? A global empire with no one to oppose them.
You seem to consider that a good thing.
Oh, good, bad, the world doesn't work like that. Of course, there are writings that hint at the fact that the Shaper Empire wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, but still it was stable. And it persisted for tens of thousands of years. Can you imagine? All this knowledge, all this art, all this wisdom. Nothing in the EO of today can match that. Nothing. It's like comparing a sea full of secrets with a puddle of muddy water.
And how exactly did their empire come to be? They must have conquered quite a few nations.
They had the liberty of being the first living civilization on our EO, at least as far as we know. That made it easier to maintain peace and stability. Until the end, and dragons.
My father always told me the Shaper Empire relied a lot on slaves.
What? No, that's rubbish. The Shapers had castes, yes, and it's probably the lower castes your father was referring to. But to call these slaves is like calling, say, a tanner who was born outside a royal family a slave, just because he'll never be a king. And even the very lowest caste, the Zalanir, always had enough to eat, a roof over their heads, and could, without paying a single coin, get themselves healed by a cleric if they needed to. So if you think that's unjust, go ahead. Ask an Everlight beggar which era he'd rather live in. He's not a slave, yes, but in some ways he's worse off.
How do you know all this?
Some of it from writings, some of it's just connecting the dots. I know how many scholars are out there at the universities giving their talks about the inscrutable empire, but it's not nearly as inscrutable as they say. Their problem is they're trying to understand the Shapers by reading books and dusty tablets. That's not how it works. You need to get out there, into the field. And even if it takes years of fruitless digging, eventually you're bound to stumble onto something. Another piece of the mosaic.
Very poetic.
Because it is.
And yet, they died out.
Yeah. Great mystery.
Most scholars think it was the dragons.
They do, but I doubt it. You saw what the Shapers were capable of. Even a race as powerful as the dragons couldn't have wiped them out. And you see the shape this city is in, Tahar. There's no traces of fire and destruction. But regardless of what it was, it doesn't change the fact that the way the current races of this world treat the Shapers is nothing short of pathetic. They were greater than we'll ever be. But instead of studying this greatness, we ignore them. And why? Just because it doesn't fit into our religion, our traditions, or whatever reason they can come up with. Because to many, admitting what a marvel the Shapers truly were would mean admitting that our culture is pale in comparison.
Is our world really that bad?
That depends on your expectations. We could do worse, certainly, but if this is as good as we can get, then I have nothing to feel but pity.
We don't know enough about the Shapers yet to say that.
Maybe you don't. I do. In any case, I suppose you found your answer, haven't you? This is what fascinates me about the Shapers. They're a reminder of what we could be, if only we wanted to.
I see. Well, thanks for the explanation, Iskrim. I appreciate it.
Corporal? Need anything?
Could you tell me a bit more about your homeland? Finn and Mir?
Well, it's not my homeland anymore, but yeah, shoot.
What role does magic play among elves?
It's everywhere. Magic is considered a gift of Ellen, and it defines your standing in every possible way. We may have talked about that already, but the whole council who runs the country is made up of mages, which is why the Purity will have a hard time finding followers in Finn and Mir, should they ever be naive enough to try.
I doubt that will ever happen. How is human culture different from elven culture?
I assume you mean Nortander from Finn and Mir? There isn't one elven culture, as little as there's just the humans. Generally spoken, though, I wouldn't say they're too different. Especially not compared to the orcs. Life is a lot slower, mainly due to our lifespan, and elves are even more defined by tradition than humans. They revere nature and value tradition and rules above all else, and they are extremely aware of what they say, how they say it, and to whom. Which also makes it very easy to offend an elf. I'm an exception in that regard, but that was something my vagrant years taught me. But then again, not all elves are like that. There are some who care as little about Ellen the White Tree and the traditions as a troll cares about his morning toilet.
Elves have a very long lifespan. What's it like to live for so long?
Hard to say, since I don't know what a human body feels like. As an elf, you simply take it for granted. When I first realized how short a human life is during my travels, I was baffled. I've been on this world for 39 years now, and in the elven world, I'm hardly considered an adult. Here, I'd have delivered my 7th child by now. It's strange. That's the best way to describe it. But you know what I eventually came to realize?
Tell me.
That age doesn't necessarily make you wiser. I've talked to 30-year-old humans who understood more of the world than the ancient seers of Finn and Mir. It's all about experiences.
Interesting. There was something else I wanted to ask.
Sure. What?
This might sound odd, but why did you join me? It was me the Harbinger wanted.
Why are you asking? If you want me to leave, you can just say it. No hard feelings.
No, I just want to understand. You've been putting yourself in a lot of danger for our cause.
I guess so. Well, I hate to disappoint, but I don't think there's a particular reason. As you pointed out in the prison, I'm a fugitive as much as you are, and my best chance of survival was sticking with you.
Tell me a bit about your time on the road. What was it like?
Is that a command, Corporal?
Please?
All right, but I'm afraid there isn't so much to tell. Have you ever been on the road by yourself?
A long time ago.
Well, then you know how wearisome it can get. Sleeping under the stars sounds romantic at first, until you realize that most of the time it's sleeping in the mud in drizzle. Most of the time, your stomach and your purse are empty, and your feet are full of blisters. And, of course, there's the constant danger. Especially if you're traveling on your own.
Did you ever have a companion?
Some, yeah, but most of it was just temporary. Though there was one I traveled with for longer. Quentin.
How did you meet?
Coincidence. A small town between Finn and Mir and Lar. We played dice together and he cheated. When I called him out on it, he tried to turn tail, but one of the other guests stopped him for me. They wanted to go give him a beating, but I told them to stop. He gave me back my money and we started talking. And, believe it or not, we found that we got along quite well.
So you started traveling together? With a thief?
I wouldn't call him that. He was just young and careless. We ended up traveling for almost a year.
What was his story? Where would...
Into the blue, same as me. He had quite an interesting task, but I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing it with you, to be honest. He wouldn't want that.
I see. What was your relationship?
You mean... No, we were just friends. He was way too young for my liking, and I think I was too old for him. We were more like sister and brother.
Huh. So, how did you split up? What happened?
Nothing dramatic. We came by a village and decided to rest there for a while. The roads had become quite dangerous due to the mage wars, and we didn't want to go out unprepared. I did some healing for the villagers, and he helped out the local smith. He liked it, and the smith wanted him as an apprentice, so he stayed. I was surprised and a bit hurt at first, but then I realized it was probably for the better. I still think of him sometimes, though.
Huh. And how did you make a living?
That was the easiest part. I healed people.
With light magic?
Yes and no. It was my magic that mended the wounds, but since mages are often met with suspicion, how shall I say, got a little creative. Frankly put, whenever I treated someone, I gave them a magical potion to drink, which was just water mixed with some harmless herb to give it color. The rest was laying on hands to help the potion's effect, which was pure light magic and how I did the actual healing.
And that worked?
Better than you'd think. People were fighting over my panacea as if I was Ellen incarnate, while cursing the evil defilers who had caused this war. Ironic, isn't it?
Do you miss it sometimes?
Well, we're still vagabonds somehow, aren't we? But I know what you mean. And yeah, I sometimes do. The wind on my skin, the vastness of the wildlands, and the fact that all you have to think about is the mile ahead of you. It's another world. There was this one night I'll never forget. I had made a camp at a clearing, set up campfire, and I was leaning against a tree, slowly drifting toward sleep. Then, all of a sudden, it started to rain. Not just the usual drizzle, it was bucketing down, drowning everything, the earth, the noise, the plants around me. My first impulse was to jump up, to find shelter, get my things into the dry. But I didn't. Instead, I saw. I don't know how else to put it. All of a sudden, there was this deep sense of peace. As if all my life I had been chasing something without knowing it myself. And in that moment had found it. So I just watched. I sat there and I watched. That feeling lasted until the sun came up. And then I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was gone.
That sounds beautiful.
And a bit dramatic. But yeah, it was beautiful. I've never felt something like that again.
And what do you make of it now?
Truth be told, I don't know. But it changed something. Even though I cannot say what it is.
There you are again. Gore's new friend. I truly hope he knows what he's doing. Orcs following the orders of a pale skin. That hasn't happened before. But, to be fair, you've given me little reason to distrust you. You did great in that battle against Krell.
Thank you. So you're the commander of the Fire Wielders?
Chieftain. And I serve Gore, our High Chieftain, who follows your advice. In other words, I'm the third down the list. Mainly, I'm here to make sure our warriors stay in shape and are well equipped. And if you're willing to invest some coin, I might even come up with a way to permanently increase their strength.
Can you tell me more about the Fire Wielders? About your traditions?
Well, since Gore is now our High Chieftain, he's the one you should talk to. But I'll do my best.
The Mage Wars. How did they affect the orcs?
Hardly. Some tribes, like the Fleshkins and the Ash Reavers, used the chance to invade your lands, as you've noticed in that Iskander village, Farland's Hope. Apart from that, we just stood out of it. Though, of course, we had our own sack of problems to deal with, such as idiots like Krell.
How did the Bloodburn affect the orcs?
It still does. For some reason, not as often as in human lands. But nonetheless, and when it hit, it did so with full force. There were 2 outbreaks among the Fire Wielders, and every time, the affected died within a couple of days. The Kayran clan was hit the hardest.
Interesting. I wonder why the races react so differently.
Well, I'm a warrior, not a shaman or an elder. You'll have to find out yourself.
Let's discuss something else. I want to train the Fire Wielders.
All right. Here's what we can do.
What do you want?
Just checking how you're settling in.
I'm good. Thanks. Interesting place you found yourself here, I'll give you that.
Back in the cave, you told me that you fought that demon in order to gain control over it. I'd still like to know how that works.
It's complicated.
That's it?
For now.
How did you end up in Barka Gore?
It's a long story. Suffice to say, I've been on the road for quite some time now, and Barka Gore just happened to be my last spot before I ran into you. Let's talk about you instead. You've gathered a ton of followers, one outcast after another. Tell me, Tahar, do you trust them?
Of course I do.
Huh. To be honest, I don't understand how you can do it. You have that look about you, and it's driving me nuts.
What do you mean by that?
I've observed you on the way back from Barka Gore. The way you move, the way you talk. I get why other people follow your lead. I really do. You simply have some kind of strange charisma. It's not visible at first glance, but it's there. You give people hope. I guess that's what it boils down to. You attract outsiders, and you get them to march under your banner.
How is that a bad thing?
It's a bad thing because you're too careless. All these people, did it ever occur to you that they're outsiders for a reason? The treacherous orc, the renegade elf, the exiled dwarf? Still, you trust them. Even if you put your stern face on, I can see that you do. And it's why people follow you. But trust doesn't protect from betrayal. But let's stop this right here, okay? I'm sure you have things to do, and so do I.
Let's see.
Huh?
So, have we gotten past that I don't trust you thing? I want to know more about you.
Well, there isn't that much to know about me, Tahar. I'm a demonologist from Kalea, and I've been on the road for a couple of years now. That's it.
Wait, you're Kalayan?
Yeah, and I know I don't have the accent, but that was a lot of training.
What made you come to Northander?
Long story, and I don't want to talk about it. Anything else, Tahar? If not, let me get back to my grimoire.
Can you tell me more about Kalea? What's it like there?
It's a pretty general question, Corporal.
What are Kaleans like, compared to Nortandians?
Huh. Good question. I don't spend that much time socializing, so I don't know if I can give you the answer to that. But all in all, Kaleans are a lot less stiff than you Nort folks. Kaleans like to sing, to dance, and to fuck. They do it a lot, sometimes at the same time. They admire philosophy and magic, and being good in either of those makes you the equivalent of a famous bard here in Greyfell. On the other hand, the people are two-faced. That's a lot better here in Northander. You have your little intrigues, but you generally say what you mean, which Kaleans see as almost primitive.
Kalea is a city-state, isn't it? Like Everlight.
Yeah. Well, almost. When people say Kalea, they usually refer to the chain of islands in the Sea of Dreams, a couple of miles from Imperia. However, only the big one in the middle is really inhabited. And that one's pretty much just a massive city called Kalea. Nobody can remember the names of the other islands, not even the Kaleans themselves. But yeah, it's essentially a city-state. And even though Kalea is small, it's very powerful. You know, spices, sugar, sea jewels, all the kind of stuff a tropical paradise has to offer.
Rich as a Kalean, isn't that how they say?
Yeah, though that ignores the fact that there's thousands of Kaleans starving to death in the slums.
Do you happen to know if Kalea is affected by the Bloodburn too?
Don't think so, no. At least I haven't heard anything.
There's been a lot of tension between Northander and Kalea during the Mage War. How is the situation now?
I haven't been back since, so I couldn't tell you. But according to the sailors, things have gotten better.
Never mind. I'll be going.
Sure.
That's the way?
All right, let's get to the chase. We need to discuss where and how we start our search. You're all familiar with the objective?
Find the Forge Stones, reignite the Nexus, decipher the song with it, and put an end to the Bloodburn.
That's about it. Area thinks that someone removed the Nexus stones shortly before the city was abandoned, but they left markers on the stone map. And now that we have a small army backing us up, we can start searching. Iskrim?
Yeah, we suspect one of the stones to be in the desert of Aenir's Blade, probably in the possession of the Iron Falcons, whereas the other one is on an unknown island.
An unknown island?
Correct. And yes, the oceans might have long taken it, which is why the only way to find out is to build a ship. And to...
Hold on. In the northwest, the Black Sea.
I think so.
Sarek's fangs. That's interesting. There's an old orc myth of such an island, and as far as I know, there was even a human archaeologist in Everlight who said he had found it. A traveler told me.
Did he find it?
Long story, but it's a trail we could follow. Building a ship would take months. If we go to Everlight, I can tell you more.
Well, it does sound promising.
And intriguing. So,
Where do we go first, Tahar? Everlight or Aenir's blade?
I'll think about it and let you know when we head out. For now, just get prepared.
Will do, Corporal.
Will do.
Huh?
Understood.